Hi, Alexi here. Welcome back to my channel, where I'm really disappointed by the lack of Zambonis in the gay hockey show. Really manifesting that for season 2. Heated Rivalry. Heated Rivalry is a Canadian show that came out in 2025 and truly became a global phenomenon. It stars oh, Hudson Williams and Connor Story as hockey players Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov, respectively. Shane and Ilya are elite hockey players on rival teams, a fact that the National Hockey League, the NHL, really likes to play up. However, they begin a several years long affair, which starts as just like sort of a sex kind of thing, but evolves into like a tender enemies to lovers. They are in love kind of deal. I'd say the show is known for being quite steamy. It has been described as softcore porn. There is truly a sex scene 20 minutes into the first episode, but also like there is a lot of heart and in the story and in the show, Story and Williams are like besties in real life, which manifests as amazing on-screen chemistry. The showrunner is Jacob Tierney, who is a gay man, and the book upon which the show was based was written by Rachel Reed, whose husband is bisexual and whom she does get advice from when writing all of the gay hockey books that she's written. I would describe them as gay hockey smut with a heart as well. Also, really quick, if you hear weird breathing or noises in the background, it is my very old dog, and he was just diagnosed with hypothyroid. It would be ableist for me to kick him out. Do you want me to be ableist towards my very old dog? Is that what you want? I already made a video about heated rivalry controversies, but I focused more on issues with the fandom. And I think what's been going on more recently is more centered on both Rachel Reed and Jacob Tierney's shortcomings when writing Shane as a character, which bleeds over into their real life treatment of Hudson Williams. Rachel Reed's treatment of Shane Hollander as a character has been subject to scrutiny since Heated Rivalry came out, from what I can tell. However, it's been more talked about as the show has become more popular and as fandom communities around it have honestly become more mainstream. And that scrutiny has led into the bleed over I've been talking about when it comes to looking at how the Heated Rivalry team treats Hudson Williams. And it's discussed fairly frequently on the sides of Heated Rivalry fandom I lurk in, but everything kind of came to a head again after this clip from BookCon. This is Rachel Reed and Jacob Tierney at BookCon. I don't know if you can see them very well.
I've got a question here from
Maybe not the crowd for
Hudson
that.
Williams.
I don't know who that is.
Question?
I don't know who that is.
I'm going to read it exactly as he sent it.
Oh, don't. I bet it needs work.
Who is this?
Is the
Hudson.
process, is
It's
the
just
process
chaos.
of adapting a book to TV scripts, all caps, to then getting actors, all caps, then filming, all caps, and then editing a weird game of telephone where you adamantly carved the world you saw, reading into existence? Or is the finished product a surprisingly new thing where you don't know what the fuck happened along the way?
That is like, I can hear him
I
yelling
know.
at me through that question, which I
I
like.
think the two things are like being in a group chat where one's like eloquent and lovely, and then the reply is like, "Yeah, dog," and it's just like,
I think part of the backlash was triggered by the word choice of eloquent and lovely, as opposed to have been making the rounds pretty much like right before that, talking about how Hudson Williams fans were jealous because he wasn't classy like Connor Story. Um, Projecting much. Do I think Reed and Tierney were like sneakily referencing this post? No. I would be surprised if either of them even knew about it, but it still kickstarted this larger fandom discussion again, which again does happen like every few weeks, to be honest, of what do the show and the story's creators owe its characters and actors. A few months ago, this image that Reed had posted to her Instagram, at least of August 25th, that's the screen grab I got, started making the rounds again. Basically, the image contains very brief character notes on Shane and Ilya and was a way for her to brainstorm the ways in which Shane and Ilya are opposites. And the note I saw a lot of people discussing was, quote, Ilya is very intelligent, Shane is not. From what I can tell, the post isn't up anymore. I might have missed something, but I did check twice, but I'm also really bad at looking for stuff. So yeah, please let me know if I'm wrong. Either way, the internet is forever. People took issue with the fact that Reed was not only saying that her POC character was not very intelligent when compared to her white character, but also that she posted it. What I saw bothering a lot of people was that when she posted this note, she was almost thinking of it as a like, haha, funny sort of thing, which demonstrates this pattern of a sort of lack of awareness when it comes to racial politics and what she's writing, posting, just like putting out into the world. And I think that further comes up when you look at Ilya carries pain and trauma, Shane does not, within the context of the books and also Shane's race. Now, in both the book and the show, Ilya's mother did kill herself, and his father insists that she accidentally did so to keep up appearances. His father is also constantly bringing up Ilya's failures, like whenever the Russian hockey team Ilya competes on loses, he'll be like, don't apologize to me, apologize to Russia. Why did I do an Italian hand gesture there? I'm sorry to Europeans just generally. That was not good. Ilya's brother is also very unkind to him. He's struggling with a drug addiction, which, side note, I just finished Tough Guy, which is one of the Game Changer series' books, and I don't think Rachel Reed writes addiction well. Speaking as somebody who is currently involved in harm reduction and is like interacting with people in active addiction. Ilya is constantly being badgered by his brother to like send more money. So Ilya absolutely that man is absolutely carrying trauma, and Connor Story plays it very well. He does a good job, okay? All of these actors are tremendous. But also remember, Shane is Asian, and he's playing a sport that is predominantly white and has a racism problem. Yet we only get 2 scenes about this in both the show and the book. One where Montreal Metro's exec tells Shane's mom, Hollander, how excited he is to have an Asian player on their team, which has historically broken barriers. And it's all just very, like, tokenizing. And Christina Chang, who plays his mom, plays this scene very well. She does this, like, awkward pause and this kind of sort of look of, oh god, I have to be polite to this guy because he's my son's employer, but what do you even say to that? And the only other time we actually get to hear about Shane's experience as a racialized person playing hockey, and the only time we get to hear it from Shane's own voice, is a scene in which he's talking to Rose Landry, who is his sort of girlfriend at the time because he's dealing with a lot of compet, poor guy. And the scene is actually about his experience growing up playing hockey. We never get to hear about his experience in the NHL. And this issue continues into the long game. By the way, if you are here for the IRL drama, we're getting to that. Please bear with me a little bit longer. I promise we'll get there. This passage was going viral, specifically Ilya, was more aware of hockey's flaws than Shane was. Listen, I don't know Rachel Reed's life. I don't know what went into writing this book. But maybe, it would have been nice if she had someone around her to point out that Ilya being the only one to notice flaws in hockey doesn't make a lot of sense with Shane being Asian. Are you telling me that Shane has never experienced racism in the NHL? Is that what you were telling me, Rachel Reed? Because that feels even more unrealistic than the lack of Zambonis in your books. I do agree with the general population, at least that I'm interacting with in heated rivalry spaces, that the long game comes across as Rachel Reed hating Shane Hollander, a character that she wrote. In the long game, Shane and Ilya are trying to navigate their relationship still being a secret. At the end of Heated Rivalry, Ilya signs with the Ottawa Centaurs, leaving the Boston Bears. I think they're called the Raiders in the show, but I like the Bears because it's closer to the Bruins, and my dad's from outside of Boston. He now lives closer to Shane, who plays for the Montreal Metros, and also Shane's parents, who live in Ottawa and who know about their relationship and are very nice to Ilya. Ottawa, it's not a good team. They're taking loss after loss, and additionally, Shane wants to stick to their original plan, keeping their relationship secret until like they retire in a few years. All of this secrecy is starting to weigh on Ilya, and he's battling some pretty severe depression. And it's sort of becoming this feedback loop because he's like, well, my depression isn't as bad as my mom's was, but my mom's depression got really bad and she killed herself. What if I am gonna end up like being that depressed? And it leads to this like paralysis where he feels like he doesn't know how to take action. He does end up seeing a therapist though, and I think he gets on medication. Good for him. But like part of the issue is he doesn't know how to tell Shane that he actually wants to figure out a way to come out sooner. And when reading The Long Game, I did actually relate a lot to Ilya. I'm also really bad at telling people what I need and like misplacing that frustration on to the people whom I'm not telling what I need, which is not fair to anyone. But at the same time, I actually related a lot to Shane because the thing is, Shane notices that there is something wrong with Ilya and does try to ask him about it, but Ilya brushes them off. So Shane thinks that everything is fine because Ilya won't tell him otherwise. And like, I also have a very strong fear of not noticing when somebody is upset with me, them not telling me that they're mad at me, that kind of thing. That's my overshare of the video. But the thing is, apparently we're supposed to read this as if Shane's in the wrong. These Discord posts from Rachel Reed have been making the rounds. So Rachel Reed says, the performance-enhancing diet, which we know is ridiculous, is mostly in the book as another thing that Shane focuses too much on instead of actual important things, like his very sad boyfriend. In the original draft, Shane agrees to Crowell's terms because he wants to protect Ilya. Crowell was a lot more threatening in the original draft. My editor wasn't having it, ha ha ha. Going into TLG, The Long Game, my main notes were all the ways Shane had been selfish. It was important to hold on to that. It's not an impossible thing to overcome, but it needed to create a conflict. For some context there, Shane is on a super strict performance-enhancing diet so that he can like maximize the amount of time he plays hockey, because hockey is a very like, you age out of it type of sport, right? And a lot of readers, myself included, as somebody that has had some problems with that kind of thing, were like, oh, that's just an eating disorder. And then other people were like, no, lots of athletes go on super restrictive diets like this and then feel horrible crushing guilt if they have a cheat day. And like, yeah, y'all are really close to getting that one, actually. As for the Crowell stuff, basically Shane and Ilya accidentally get outed because they're caught kissing in the background of a friend's cameo video, and the commissioner of the NHL is like, hey, don't be too gay, guys. Don't talk about it too much. I think it's kind of weird that Rachel Reed's whole approach to Shane as a character is a bit, like, odd, to say the least. She wrote Shane to be terrified of both being out and being outed, but never explores why. She just uses it as a plot device to further Ilya's suffering and the idea that Shane is a bad boyfriend. None of her white characters in her other books, there's a lot of them, and I have read a lot of them actually, are treated with this much, it honestly feels like malice. An example I've seen people bring up, and I agree with, is how the character of Troy Barrett, who kind of like bullies his teammates and is actively homophobic in other books, is treated with much more kindness in Role Model and The Long Game, where he comes to terms with the fact that he is gay and was dealing with a lot of internalized homophobia and actually starts dating the Centaur's social media manager, Harris. I read most of that book, but I got really bored, which is hard as somebody that really fucks with apple farms. Of all of the Game Changers books, there's only one other that features a racialized, like, love interest POV character. Fabian Salah is Lebanese and a pop singer. He's also a bit more femme than Reed's usual characters, like he wears makeup and stuff. Like I've been saying, I want his gender, and for some reason, when I was at my local library, that book was available to check out when all the other ones weren't. I wonder if there's racism and homophobia involved with that. Anyways, author Erin Aceves wrote on Threads, ugh, I know I shouldn't say this publicly. Yes, you should, Aceves. Go off. But I'm a man of color before I'm an author, so I just read Tough Guy, and I'm so confused as to why Rachel Reed even bothers writing characters of color. Fabian's being Lebanese is literally just window dressing. Genuinely curious why an author would choose a specific ethnicity for a character and refuse to go any deeper than surface level aesthetics. And I don't think it would be as baffling if Ilya's Russianness didn't inform so much of his character. And I think Aceves really speaks to this lack of almost like curiosity about her own characters on Rachel Reed's part that is really frustrating. And I don't think anyone is like seriously saying, we want Rachel Reed to write highly specific incidents of racialized violence, like to be so clear, right? I also think that the conversation around like, should white authors write from the POV of characters of color is certainly peeking through here as well. For a lot of Heated Rivalry and most of the long game, I was desperately wondering why Shane was so afraid of coming out and if his other marginalities played a role in that. Fans have noticed that he reads as autistic, which Rachel Reed has been calling him self-centered. Like, this was also a pretty weird quote. But yeah, like combining that with him probably really feeling that pressure to be a model minority in this very white league, I feel sort of like when you approach your other characters that are white with curiosity and empathy and nuance, but you withhold that from Shane, it just feels kind of racist. And if you are watching this and are like, oh, but Hudson Williams plays Shane with so much depth, yeah, that's because he's a very talented actor that's very good at his job and spent a lot of time like figuring out little mannerisms for Shane to flesh him out as a character. This, of course, all bleeds over into real life microaggressions, which we saw in that BookCon clip. I did see people defending Reed and Tierney, saying that everyone was misreading Canada's dry sense of humor. If these comments were made in a vacuum, I guess maybe people would be a bit more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, be a little bit more forgiving, I don't know. But they were made in the context of Rachel Reed's characters about Shane, the Asian character whom this Asian actor plays. Oh, and by the way, don't think I'm letting Tierney off the hook either. I believe in holding men accountable. He hasn't engaged in too many critical discussions on race in the show either, minus this article where he says, we have a non-white lead, and I think that's fucking important. We can learn a few lessons out of that. You don't need to be making an Asian show to have an Asian lead. Hudson's a fucking star, man. I guess we can agree on that. Tierney. There was also a mini scandal before all this where he talked about getting writing advice from Rainbow Rowell, whose books I did really enjoy as a teenager, but Threads users, and in particular Asian Threads users, brought up the very problematic ways she describes Park, who is multiracial Korean and white in her 2012 novel, Eleanor and Park. Chantal Chung wrote in 2021, throughout the book, there is a constant focus on Park's otherness. His mixed race identity is often reduced down to a plot device for the white protagonist to fetishize and project upon. The comments I was seeing a lot were like, hey, when we say we want y'all to write Shane in a less colorblind way next season, and then you're like, oh, I'm getting writing advice from Rainbow Rowell, that feels kind of weird. And to be fair, I also did see people posting that they found the lack of overt racism kind of nice. It was sort of a way for the show to be an escape. Catherine and Jen, for example, compared representation in Heated Rivalry to Shadow and Bone, where the main character is also mixed race Asian, and they make up a bunch of slurs about that. Jeng says, we get to see how being half Asian has affected how he's grown up and how it's made him feel alienated, and how now being this like token for Asian representation puts a lot of extra pressure on him. And it's nice to hear it from Shane's perspective instead of like watching him get hate crimed on scene. At the same time, in Why Asian Representation and Heated Rivalry Could Be Better, Samantha Pack writes, meanwhile, Shane is so culturally generic, he could be from any background. It's an ongoing joke that Ilya calls him boring. Again, this typically wouldn't be that big of an issue, but when you compare how much attention to detail is paid to Ilya in contrast, even to the hockey team's uniforms, Shane being Asian just feels like an afterthought. Pack also says she does not want to see Shane be hate crimed on screen, but Even a small scene with Shane meeting a young Asian fan, thanking him, or sharing their excitement for when he joined the league would make for a great callback to that first episode with Hollander. And I think that's where a good bit of the criticism towards Tierney lies. We know that Rachel Reed is not great at writing Shane Hollander, her Asian character, and we haven't seen what Tierney will do in season 2. But so far in season 1, there have still been issues. This is why it's really important to have people of the identity that's being written about in the writer's room, as well as like behind the camera and directors. I'm not original for thinking that, to be clear. That's a cold take, actually. And when we think about how both of these people have treated their very real Asian actor, Hudson Williams, it's kind of hard to keep hope, man. A few days ago, Hudson Williams commented, "RPFing gotta stop, y'all," under this post. RPF is real person fanfic, by the way. Think like Louis Tomlinson and Harry Styles from One Direction kind of vibe. Loki, this post was not super RPF, to be so honest. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm desensitized, but my toxic trait is that I actually am not super anti-RPF. I came of age in Fandom RPF spaces. But what I am anti, and honestly what I think most people that are still in RPF communities are anti, is when that real person fanfic behavior sort of bleeds into harassing the real people it's about. Hudson Williams and Connor Story have been keeping their friendship much more private because some people that shipped, so like paired them two together, were like harassing Hudson's girlfriend. And like, again, to be clear, I do think that the vast majority of RPF writers and readers in the space like really don't want Hudson Williams or Connor Story perceiving their work at all. But Hudson Williams is a pretty new actor, and I would imagine that he can't super respond to these microaggressions I've been talking about that he's facing in real life. Like, BuzzFeed literally posted this about Connor Story's Met Gala look. They called him Mrs. Hudson Williams, which is like weirdly misogynistic, and also speaking of Parasocial, that's gotta be so fucking frustrating. And again, I would imagine it feels like he doesn't really have the space to respond to these microaggressions he's facing because he doesn't want to be labeled difficult to work with. He's, because he's a super new actor just starting out, and eventually that frustration is going to boil over into somewhere. That said, commenting under a specific fan's post is really shitty. I am not excusing that action. That was kind of fucked up, man. Anyways, to circle back around to my main point, the consensus I've seen on my corner of the internet is that the long game in a lot of ways failed Shane Hollander, and that Reed and Tierney, in a lot of ways, have failed Hudson Williams. I hope he gets a good coffee today, and I hope that girlie whose post he commented under gets 2 good coffees today. Gets good coffee for the rest of their life. And an apology. Also, I wasn't sure the best place to fit this in the script, but on April 23rd, I think, it was announced that Heated Rivalry won a Peabody Award, which is like the biggest award a TV show can receive, pretty much. And it was for the whole show, not specific actors, right? So tell me why the official Heated Rivalry Instagram only posted this picture of Connor's Story while all this controversy was actively happening. And so I was like, okay, maybe that's the image that the Peabody official website used, and we should actually be mad at the Peabodys as well. No, they used this one right here. Like, the Heated Rivalry team knew they were nominated hella in advance. You're telling me they didn't like pre-make a press release with maybe, actually it would have been cool if it had like the whole cast and crew or something in it. That would have been awesome. And 4 hours later, they did post this picture as well of Hudson Williams. And like at a certain point, is your social media monitor intern like sick? What is happening? I actually timed myself, and I used the picture that the Peabody Awards website used, and I made a really crappy mock-up in a little over 5 minutes, and that's without access to the official brand kit, like the fonts and everything. Like, I did this with a passion for graphic design and a dream, and it's not good. But can you imagine what somebody whose actual job this was could do in like 10 minutes after the announcement? Like, what? Or like, what are we doing? And then I saw that the same like official account had posted something for Sophie Nelly's over there for her birthday, like a happy birthday post, but didn't post anything for Ksenia Daniela Karlamova's birthday. Like, they posted a thing on her birthday, but it wasn't like a happy birthday message. And like, I don't know any of these people's lives. Like, maybe she didn't want something posted, but also it just feels odd to me. If either of them are ever single and like non-men, call me. Also, I forgot to put this in the original video, but like, before you go, oh, if you don't like it, don't watch it. First of all, I do really like Heated Rivalry, which is why I think it's valuable to talk about these critiques of it so it can become a better show and live up to its full potential. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let's take it to outro, Alexi. Thank you so much for watching. Also, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers, over 1,000 subscribers. Like, I really never thought that this channel where I just like kind of put my opinion out into the void would, I don't know, get to that point. If people would be interested in a 1K AMA, I like that because it rhymes. Just, yeah, put any questions you have in the comments, or you can email them to me at aluciasonline@gmail.com, or message them to me on Instagram, alexisonline. Also, like, you know, I did form a lot of these opinions through reading threads posted by POC, and particularly POC Canadian Threads users, and just like posters and essay writers in general. But like, by virtue of being white, even if I am trying, there are going to be times where I mess up, and I'm open to feedback in whatever way you would like to give me that feedback, because I think it would be stupid to not continue to try being a better person, you know? What else? My outro song is Take a Vacation by The Young Veins. All channel art is by me. If there were any graphics cards in this, it was made by me in Canva. Thank you so much again for watching. You should like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye now.
I need to take a vacation. If this is